The chapter about working in Canada is very straightforward, so I thought I would talk about a current government program that has received some news coverage related to this issue. It's the Temporary Foreign Worker Program, and it's used by Canadian companies to fill short-term shortages, but the question is it abused? So companies hire workers when there's a short-term shortage in a specific area. That is, there's not enough candidates to fill the job opening. And this is usually, for high-skilled specialists. For example, Microsoft brought in many temporary foreign workers from India to serve as software engineers. But lately, it's also been including low-skilled workers as well. And these are temporary foreign workers. They're not official immigrants because they can only stay up to 4 years, including the extensions. And in some cases, it may just be seasonal. For example, a farm worker working during the harvesting season. These temporary foreign workers have an employer-specific work permit. So their work permit is tied to a particular job. Now, this is contrary to someone who has an open work permit who can work for any employer. These temporary foreign workers are matched to a specific employer. It was first created in 1973 to address some specific shortages, and it was expanded in 2002 when certain sectors could not get enough Canadians to work. For the most part, most Canadians had not heard much about this program until 2013 and 2014 when it was publicized in the media that big chains like Tim Hortons and McDonald's had been using the TFWs to avoid paying the minimum wage, that they were not interested in looking for Canadians to fill the positions. These were jobs that Canadians were willing to fulfill, but individual franchisees were using the program to bring in TFWs and pay lower than the minimum wage. And some restrictions, such as a 4-year limit, were put in place because the managers of the franchises were getting repeated extensions, and it was becoming permanent, not temporary, as it was.
McDonald's Canada has put its temporary foreign workers program on hold and ordered a third-party audit of all of its Canadian restaurants that employ foreign workers. The move follows a CBC News Go Public investigation, which revealed Canadian staff in 3 BC franchises saw their hours cut and given to foreign workers. Kathy Tomlinson broke this story, and she's got tonight's developments.
I had no idea it would be this big.
It all started with this 21-year-old McDonald's employee. Kalen Christ went public to say he and his co-workers were having their hours cut, while temporary foreign workers got better shifts and higher pay.
No, obviously rules are being broken here, and it's good to see that something's being done about it.
He's reacting to McDonald's announcement that it's now having an independent audit done to look at its use of temporary foreign workers across the country. This after several other Canadian workers also spoke out, like Christina Morrow, whose pay was slashed.
Those of us that have, left for sure, I think we've all felt pushed out.
We felt something like left out, like slaves.
Then came Jaime Montero, a foreign worker, who says he and others were made to live in an apartment leased by McDonald's, their pay docked for rent.
We felt that we didn't stand a chance to even voice our opinion to them.
Because of all of this, the government launched what it calls an urgent investigation into McDonald's practices, which it says is still ongoing.
We had already suspended permission from several McDonald's franchises to use this program where allegations of abuse had come to light, and I think the national corporation is taking it very seriously.
I think McDonald's does have a public relations problem.
The BC Federation of Labour has threatened McDonald's with a boycott over the issue and says an audit isn't enough.
They should stop We have asked them to stop bringing in temporary foreign workers, and we think that's what they should do.
Sources say McDonald's executives held an urgent conference call yesterday to discuss how to handle all of this. McDonald's Canada says it takes exception to our reporting, and it decided to do the audit because of the government investigation. That doesn't mean it'll stop using temporary foreign workers, though. On the contrary, it says it supports the program and plans to keep on using it. Peter?
All right, Kathy, thanks very much. Kathy Tomlinson in Vancouver. Well, McDonald's says its action today does not affect its current temporary foreign workers who have approved work permits. The company says only 268 of its 1,400 restaurants in Canada employ temporary foreign workers, and that foreign workers make up only 4% of its 85,000 employees nationwide.
Here's some recent statistics about the program as provided by Stats Canada. So they only provided until 2016. And you can see it was gradually becoming more and more common until about 2013, and now it's gradually decreased. There was a bit of a controversy in April about many workers were approaching the deadline where they would have to leave the country because they had been there for 4 years since the new regulations had been passed. Although because of all of the pandemic issues, I cannot tell you exactly how it was resolved. So some common professions among the low-skilled workers, agricultural workers, especially those who help with the harvest, caregivers for individual families, meat processors, fishmongers, people working in those types of processing plants, and also factory workers. And some of the high-skilled workers include engineers and pharmacists. The process is straightforward. An employer requests a labor market impact assessment, and there's a $1,000 fee. Then the worker applies for the work permit. When it's processed, they can move and begin working. There can be inspections to determine compliance, because sometimes it's been known for the employer to say a different profession than what the person was actually doing, and there's also been some health and safety issues, and the permit can be extended up to 4 years. But some issues to be aware of is there's been cases where the housing's been very, very substandard. Like there have been cases, especially in Alberta, where many were in a room. It was very, very cheap accommodation with lots of TFWs, almost like a school residence, but with TFWs working in fast food restaurants. Standards of employment. You can pay below the minimum wage, although there is a limit on how many people you can hire below the minimum wage. The employer compliance, making sure that the workplace is safe, overtime issues, paying what's been agreed upon, because these work permits are tied to a specific employer. The employer, has a great deal of power, so their compliance with the work permit is an issue. Those who criticize this program use the term slavery to talk about how few rights the workers have and how low their wages can be. And also there's the idea you do the labor market impact assessment, the LIMA, to ensure that Canadians are not willing to do the job. But you're supposed to look for Canadian workers first, and whether this is sincerely done, it's uncertain. And because of reduced travel due to COVID-19, certain farms have not been able to harvest all of their crops due to not having enough workers, and it's been hard to get every vacancy filled in 2020 because workers, if they were not already in the country, cannot cross the border. And also, unfortunately, some of these temporary foreign workers, they've been prone to COVID-19 outbreaks because the housing and accommodation is not very good. So in the best case scenario, the TFW is for that engineer that has those special skills that a Canadian company needs that they cannot find locally. In the worst case scenario, it's used by an employer looking to pay a low wage and take advantage of the program. So there are two sides to the issue.